Welcome back to Inside Politics. We're talking about education in Tennessee today. Our guests are Tennessee Education Commissioner Dr. Candace McQueen and Adam Lister, the President of Tennesseans for Student Success. Commissioner, it seems to me lawmakers are increasingly interested in the curriculum. We've had a lawmaker just in recent days talking about why do we teach in fourth grade about the civil rights movement. And the other lawmakers have raised questions about why do we teach about Islam? Aren't we sort of persuading them that Islam is a good religion? When did lawmakers get to be educators? Is this really a level they need to be in? Is that sort of oversight that you look for from the legislature?
Well, certainly what we want to make sure that we're doing is thinking about our standards statewide, and those standards actually set the tone for what we know is important as students move on into college and career. And so those standards guide decision making we do at the state. The curriculum decisions are local decisions, and we need to keep those in the local district's hands so they can make decisions about what's appropriate to meet the standards that the state has set. And then these assessments that are state's assessments give feedback on the actual attainment of those standards. And so that particular model is the right model to keep what I believe is the state and the locals aligned.
But at this point, you feel like teaching the civil rights movement is a good thing to do, is age appropriate in the 4th and 5th grade, and the same is true for the instruction being given about Islam?
Well, I appreciate that question because that's certainly been something that we've talked through as the social studies standards review process has started. And so our review process is actually allowing additional educators to look at these standards and seeing are they appropriate where they're placed. But certainly we believe where they are placed it is appropriate because it's in the schematic of what's world history. How has world history actually impacted events? And we're not proselytizing. We're not doing things that are actually rewriting history. This is about the work of what impacted world history, and can we make sure that our students understand that as they go to the next level.
I would dovetail on what the commissioner said in that, the standards review process is something that's happens occasionally or periodically at a set period every few years, but over the last couple of years, there's been a process that's happened that's never occurred before. The department's opened up a comment period to parents and teachers, so never before have parents had the ability to access and review and comment on educational standards that will ultimately be voted on and approved. And that level of transparency is in many ways unprecedented, and it's got to benefit the end product.
But in a lot of ways, in dealing with both of you with the lawmakers, do you ever feel like when you go up there you're dealing with a 132-member school board? They seem to be wanting to get into so many, almost every area of education. They want to be involved in it. They want to have control over it to some degree.
Well, what I've learned is every single legislator that I sit down and talk to, whether it's in their office or whether I'm with them in their particular districts, is that they're passionate about topics that are meaningful to them or meaningful to their constituents. And so we have to take those seriously. What we try to do is ensure that what may be a very specific local decision should stay there, and that we need to keep the broader perspective around what's good for the entire state.
Mr. Lister, tell us what Tennesseans for Student Success is. What kind of group is it? Are you going to be a super PAC? Are you going to put attack ads on for lawmakers, against and for? What is going to be your involvement in the political arena?
We wake up every single day thinking about four things. How do we preserve and protect and continue to push the legislature and the department in some ways, although they're very focused on all of the same priorities we are: high academic standards and aligned assessment. I ticked these off a few minutes ago. More parent choice and a greater accountability system. Those are the things that we believe have led to Tennessee becoming the fastest improving state in the country, and we believe that they need to continue. We can't just back away now and say we've had some success, we're satisfied with where we are. That someone has to be present in that conversation to continue to push in a really aggressive way.
You're going to spend, according to the news release, you sent out $500,000 in the upcoming election. What are you going to spend it for? And what are you going to spend it on?
Sure. A lot of that is educating voters. It's important for a voter to understand that their legislator has been supportive of these policies. There's also elements of making sure that lawmakers are aware that members and constituents in their district are overwhelmingly supportive of these policies. We commissioned a poll recently in Nashville that indicated 84% of Nashville voters were supportive of an end-of-year assessment. So the suggestion that parents don't want to test their kids. That at the end of the year that we should just back away from this concept is not shown through in the data. In fact, tests have been a part of life for years, for generations, in fact.
So you're not going to endorse candidates, but you may take points of view about the way particularly incumbents have acted in office that may look like you're taking a position one way or another in their race.
Sure. What we are going to do is focus on the issues that we support, that we believe are important to furthering Tennessee's academic gains, and communicating that to voters in a way that demonstrates either this elected official or this candidate has a demonstrated track record of supporting those policies.
Commissioner, how do you feel about having groups like this? On the one hand, I'm sure you're happy to see them out there speaking about the issues. On the other hand, it tends to also push you maybe a little more into the political arena than you'd like to be.
I think it's extraordinarily important that we are talking very publicly about the work that we're doing, and that we have folks that are out there talking about not only the actual improvements that we've made, but also helping us stay focused on the vision of what this has been about, which is making sure that all students are successful, all students are on a pathway to the workforce and post-secondary. And so we welcome folks in the field that are actually helping us share that story and share that conversation.
Mr. Lister, your news release again says you're going to be doing some aggressive ground and data activities. What are those, and specifically on the data side? What are you talking about doing?
Sure. In order for us to be able to understand who we need to talk to, or what message we need to take to voters, we need to understand, how to deliver that best to them. So these polling numbers that we talked about, that's part of the data. We need to understand precisely when we have a conversation with an elected official, are these items that voters believe in? Are they items that voters support? So being able to understand what real Tennesseans believe and how they perceive the conversations is vitally important to us being able to continue to advocate for them. I
don't know whether you were surprised or not. I don't know if the candidates were. Are you sharing your findings with candidates as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's very little value in knowing that Tennesseans overwhelmingly support things like end-of-year assessment and school choice through the Achievement School District and other items like that, and not communicating that back to lawmakers who ultimately have to cast a vote on those issues.
Polling seemed to indicate that education was the #1 issue, at least in the ones you shared with me, in the 20th Senatorial District and the 56th House District, both of which are critical races, particularly in November. Education was the #1 issue, more so than health care, more so than roads, more so than even economic development. Did that surprise you?
It didn't. I think parents and voters understand that education is the key to anything. And the governor spent a lot of time, and the department spent a lot of time talking about the K-12 continuum and beyond, to show what that means for a student's ability to be successful beyond their 12th grade year. And I think parents and voters get that. And in order for folks, young kids, to be able to have a positive experience in the rest of their life, they've got to have a high-quality education.
Okay, let's take a break. We're talking with Adam Lister. He's the president of Tennesseans for Student Success, and Dr. Candace McQueen, who's the education commissioner for the state of Tennessee. We're talking education issues. Back to continue that conversation after this break.